You're standing in a hallway. Someone just said something to your face, something unfair, something cruel. And before you even decide how to respond, your hands start to shake. Not a little, a lot. Your voice cracks when you try to talk. Your knees feel loose. This happens to almost everyone. It feels embarrassing. It feels like weakness, but it isn't. It's not your emotions leaking out. It's not you losing control. It's something far older than you, something that was running your body long before you had words for anger at all. Most people assume the shaking is just nerve, just adrenaline being messy. But that's not quite right. The truth is stranger. Your body is preparing you for a fight that, in almost every case, never happens. Scientists have a name for this system. They call it fight or flight. And once you understand what it's actually doing, you'll never look at your own shaking hands the same way again. Stay till the end, because the last part of this story explains something even stranger. Why the shaking gets worse the more you try to stop. So let's start with the moment itself. You're angry, really angry. And somewhere deep in your brain, a tiny almond-shaped structure lights up. It's called the amygdala. It's one of the oldest parts of the human brain. It doesn't care about being polite. It doesn't care about your job or your reputation or the fact that you're standing in an office. It only cares about one thing: threat. And to the amygdala, a threat is a threat. It doesn't matter if it's a lion in the grass or a coworker taking credit for your work. The response is the same. But here's what's fascinating. The amygdala doesn't fight your battles alone. The moment it senses danger, it sends a signal racing down to a small pair of glands sitting right on top of your kidney, the adrenal gland, and they respond almost instantly. Within seconds, they dump a chemical into your bloodstream, adrenaline, along with its close relative, noradrenaline, and once that happens, your body stops being yours. It becomes a machine built for one purpose: survival. So, what does adrenaline actually do to you? This is where it gets strange. Your heart rate spikes. Blood gets pulled away from your stomach and skin. That's why people go pale with rage, and that blood gets rushed to your arms and legs, the big muscles, the ones you'd need to throw a punch or run for your life. Your breathing speeds up to feed your muscles more oxygen. Your pupils widen. Every system you have is being redirected toward one outcome: movement. Big, fast, powerful movement. And that's the part most people never think about. Your body isn't preparing you to argue. It's preparing you to physically fight or physically flee. It doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed cat and a rude email. It just knows danger detected, prepare the body. But then here's the twist. You don't fight. You don't run. You just stand there in the hallway or the meeting or the kitchen, holding in every ounce of that energy. And that's exactly when the shaking begins. Because all of that fuel, all of that adrenaline, charged power, has nowhere to go. Your muscles are primed and tightened, ready to move, but you're keeping them frozen in place with sheer willpower. Imagine revving a car engine at full throttle while standing on the brake. That vibration, that shudder, that's basically what's happening inside your body. Your muscles are contracting and releasing over and over, faster than you can consciously control, because they're trying to burn off energy that isn't being used. So what did they actually do for all those hours of human history? Go back 100,000 years. Anger, for most of our evolutionary past, almost always ended in action. You either fought off a threat to your family, or you fled from something bigger and stronger. The shaking wasn't a bug. It was a side effect of a system working exactly as intended. A body that's been dumped full of adrenaline and never gets to use it, that's the unusual part. That's the modern problem. For nearly all of human history, anger and physical action were basically the same event. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Scientists studying tremors have found something surprising. You already have a tremor in your hands right now, all the time. Every human does. It's called physiological tremor. It's normally so small, so fast, you can't see it or feel it, but adrenaline changes that. It acts directly on the muscle fibers themselves, speeding up how fast they contract and relax. It takes that invisible, tiny tremor and amplifies it until it becomes something you can see, something other people can see too. Your body was shaking a little all along. Anger just turns up the volume. But that's only half the story, because trembling isn't only about your muscle, it's also about your brain shutting certain things down. When the amygdala takes over, it essentially puts your prefrontal cortex, the calm, rational planning part of your brain, on mute. That's the part responsible for smooth, coordinated movement and clear speech. It's also why people stutter when they're furious, or forget the word they were about to say. Your brain, in that moment, isn't optimized for eloquence. It's optimized for survival, which means the very tools you'd need to calm yourself down with logic are the first ones taken offline. So here's a question worth sitting with. If shaking is just leftover survival energy, why does it feel so personal? Why does it feel like weakness, like losing control, like something to be ashamed of? Part of the answer is cultural. In most modern environments, showing visible anger, especially visible trembling, is treated as a loss of composure. But biologically, it's the opposite. It's proof that your nervous system is doing exactly what it evolved to do at exactly the speed it evolved to do it. The shame isn't a signal from your body. It's a rule your environment taught you. But then, science confirmed what a lot of people had already suspected just from watching themselves shake. The intensity of the trembling tends to track with how much you're suppressing the urge to act. People who let some of that energy out through movement, through pacing, through clenching and releasing their hands, often report the shaking easing faster. People who stay completely still, holding it all in, often shake the longest and the hardest. Your body isn't asking you to hit anything. It's asking you to move. Any kind of movement can act like a release valve for that trapped energy. And here's the strangest part of all. The very thing most people do when they feel themselves start to shake, freezing up, tensing every muscle. Trying to physically force the tremor to stop actually makes it worse. Tension feeds tension. The harder your muscles clench to fight the shake, the more contraction and release cycles get triggered, and the more visible the tremor becomes. It's a loop. Fear of shaking creates more shaking, which creates more fear of shaking, which is why people who are angry in front of others, worried about being seen as out of control, often shake the most violently of all. The audience isn't causing the anger, but the audience is intensifying the trembling. Translate that to your own life for a second. Think about the last time you had to stay calm on the outside while you were furious on the inside. A tense conversation with a boss, a dispute with a stranger, a moment where you had every right to be angry but no safe way to express it. That shake in your hands wasn't a flaw in your character. It was your ancient nervous system, the same one that kept your ancestors alive against predators and rival tribes, trying to do its job in a world that no longer has room for it. You weren't malfunctioning. You were operating exactly as designed, in an environment your design was never built for. So what actually helps if the goal isn't to fight and isn't to flee? The answer science points to isn't suppression. It's discharge. Slow, controlled movement. Long exhales that are longer than your inhales, which signal to your nervous system that the danger has passed. Pressing your feet into the floor, engaging large muscle groups gently instead of holding them rigid. These aren't just calming tricks. They're ways of giving your body the thing it's actually asking for. A small, safe version of the action it was preparing you to take all along. And this is where the story turns back on you. Because trembling with anger isn't a personality flaw. It isn't proof that you're too emotional, or too weak, or too out of control. It's a message written in the oldest language your body has, a language that predates speech itself. It's the sound of a survival system, tens of thousands of years old, still faithfully doing its job, still trying to protect you the exact same way it protected every single one of your ancestors who lived long enough to have children. Every person who ever made you, all the way back, felt that same shake before a fight or a run. You inherited it, not as a weak, as proof that the system works. So the next time your hands start to shake, in an argument, in a meeting, in a moment you wish you could stay perfectly composed, remember what's actually happening underneath your skin. You're not falling apart. You're standing at the exact same crossroads every human before you has stood at. Fight or flee. Your body is ready for either one. It's just waiting for you to decide. And maybe that's the real twist in all of this. We spend so much energy trying to hide the shake when really it's proof that something inside us is still working exactly the way it's supposed to. The tremor was never the problem. It was always the proof that you're still, underneath everything, built to survive.